Welcome to the deep dive. We're looking at a stack of reports today that paint a picture of an economy that is, frankly, giving everyone a bit of whiplash.
Yeah, that's a good word for it.
Right. It's February 2026, and if you are trying to read the economic tea leaves right now and you're feeling confused, you are definitely not the only one.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, the signal to noise ratio is just terrible right now.
It's completely contradictory. You walk down Main Street and there are help wanted signs in the windows, but then you open your news feed and it's headlines about layoffs, budget cuts, shrinking departments.
And then, just to make it messier, we get the headline number for January.
130,000 jobs added.
Right. And on paper, that looks like a healthy heartbeat.
On paper, sure. But we need to contextualize that number immediately because it's doing a lot of heavy lifting for a very fragile reality.
It really is.
It's the wait but moment that caught my eye in the reporting from the Akron Legal News. At the exact same moment the government told us we added 130,000 jobs in January, they quietly took a red pen to the entire previous year.
They revised the 2025 numbers down by nearly 900,000 jobs.
Almost a million jobs just deleted from the record.
That is a massive revision. We aren't talking about a rounding error here. That effectively rewrites the history of 2025.
Because for most of last year, the narrative was that we were treading water, right?
Yeah.
Maybe growing slowly.
Exactly. But this revised data suggests we were actually in a, well, to use the term from the economists at Navy Federal Credit Union, a hiring recession.
A hiring recession, which actually explains the disconnect people have been feeling. The data kept saying growth, but the sentiment on the ground was stagnation.
And now the data is finally admitting it was wrong.
Yeah, that 900,000 number validates a lot of anxiety. So the mission for this deep dive is to figure out what is actually real in 2026, because we aren't just looking at a standard boom or bust cycle here.
No, this isn't a cycle at all. It's a restructuring. I call it the great retooling.
The great retool.
Yeah, the economy is physically and digitally reorganizing itself, and that process is incredibly messy.
And to map this out for you, we've pulled together a really diverse stack of sources. We have industry predictions from BDO USA, the raw labor data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, housing market analysis from Builder Magazine, and that reporting from the Akron Legal News.
We're basically trying to find where the solid ground is hiding.
And the stability is there, but it is very unevenly distributed. It's hiding in some very specific places, from the hospital ward to the factory floor, and even in specific cities.
It's a very targeted kind of stability.
So let's start with that January number, the 130,000 jobs. I kind of think of it like a group project in school.
Oh, I know exactly where you're going with this.
You know the one, right? Where one person is doing like 60% of the work while everyone else just watches. When you break that number down by sector, it stops looking like a broad recovery and starts looking like a very specific type of rescue mission.
It's incredibly lopsided. If you look at the BLS data, the healthcare and social assistance sector added 82,000 of those jobs.
Just that one sector.
Just that one.
So out of 130,000, 82,000 are in healthcare. That's well over 60% of the entire net growth. That is not a balanced economy.
Not at all. Because if you strip out healthcare, the U.S. economy is basically flat. Manufacturing added a nominal 5,000 jobs.
Which is barely a blip.
Right, especially after 13 straight months of losses in that sector. And the federal government actually shed 34,000 roles. So unless you were in the business of taking care of people, the job market is effectively frozen.
And we know this isn't some temporary spike, due to a bad flu season or something. This is the structural force everyone warned us about.
The silver tsunami.
Exactly. It's finally crashing onto the shore.
It's simple demographics, and demographics are the one thing in economics you can actually predict with near certainty. The BLS projections are undeniable here.
Right, because we know exactly how old everyone is.
Exactly. We have the population over age 65 jumping from about 59.7 million in 2024 to over 72.5 million by 2034. That is a massive structural shift in demand.
And it completely changes the type of care required, because we aren't just talking about, more emergency surgeries.
No, we're talking about long-term maintenance, chronic disease management, behavioral health, daily living assistance.
Which perfectly maps to the specific roles we see exploding. The fastest growing job projections aren't for heart surgeons. They are for nurse practitioners, which are projected to grow by 40%.
40% is huge.
And the occupation adding the most raw jobs in the entire economy.
Home health aides.
Right, home health aides. It's the care economy acting as the bedrock of the job market. It makes sense why it's essentially recession-proof.
Because interest rates can go to 10% or they can drop to zero, people still age. The demand is totally inelastic.
Precisely. But while healthcare is purely a volume game, more people simply need more care, the manufacturing sector is trying to solve a much harder puzzle.
A completely different set of rules.
Let's pivot to that stuff side of the economy. You mentioned earlier that manufacturing only added 5,000 jobs, which sounds incredibly anemic compared to healthcare. But reading the BDO USA predictions for 2026, the story there isn't about volume at all. It's about survival tactics.
Yeah, BDO put it really well. They said uncertainty is the only certainty. For the last 20 years, manufacturing was obsessed with the just-in-time model.
Lean supply chains, lowest possible cost, usually outsourced halfway across the world.
Exactly. And the supply chain shocks of the last few years totally broke that model.
Completely shattered it. So now, according to BDO, the philosophy is shifting to something they call operational agility.
Operational agility.
Which, I'll be honest, sounds like corporate buzzword bingo.
It really does.
But what does that actually look like? If I'm standing on a factory floor in Ohio or Michigan right now, what does agility look like compared to 5 years ago?
It's a tangible shift in how they handle inventory and production. In the old model, you might have a massive warehouse full of pre-cut metal casings just waiting for orders.
Racks and racks of pre-cuts.
Right. And that's capital tied up in inventory that might become completely obsolete if the design changes next month.
And if you don't get the orders, you're eating that cost. It's super risky.
Exactly. So the Agile model says keep the raw material on site, just the raw sheet metal coils. Don't cut it until the specific order actually comes in.
Ah, I see.
Then use automated laser cutters or industrial 3D printing to fabricate the part on demand. You reduce your inventory risk, you keep quality high, and you can switch from making part A to part B in minutes instead of weeks.
It's shifting from mass production to smart production. And here is the paradox I found in the label data. We have all this high-tech retooling happening, yet we have 409,000 open manufacturing jobs sitting unfilled.
It's a huge gap.
And simultaneously, we have 571,000 unemployed manufacturing workers.
The math doesn't seem to work, does it? You have supply and you have demand, but they aren't meeting.
Right. If there are over 500,000 people looking for work in manufacturing, why are 400,000 positions just sitting open?
This is what economists call geographic misalignment. The new jobs are popping up in very specific tax-friendly hubs, places like Michigan, Ohio, North Carolina, which are being driven by these new industrial policies.
But the unemployed workers aren't necessarily living in those zip codes.
Exactly. And in this housing market, moving isn't as simple as packing a U-Haul.
No, people are locked in, either by mortgage interest rates they don't want to lose or just general home prices.
Labor mobility is at an all-time low. You
Yeah.
can't just sell your house and move to the job like you could in the 1980s. So local manufacturers in these hubs are getting desperate. The BDO report actually mentions them using unconventional staffing strategies.
I saw that. And we aren't talking about, like, free snacks in the break room or casual Fridays.
No, we're talking about restructuring the workday entirely to fit worker availability, offering 3 a.m. shifts for single parents who share childcare duties,
Why?
or off-hour lunch breaks, split shifts. They're trying to tap into parts of the local labor force that have traditionally been ignored because they simply can't find the classic 9-to-5 worker in these specific boom towns.
It really feels like we're seeing a total bifurcation in manufacturing. There's the general consumer stuff, which is clearly struggling, and then there is what the BDO report calls the mission-critical sector.
This is the key distinction for 2026. The U.S. is aggressively reshoring production, but only for things we absolutely cannot function without.
Defense components, energy grid materials.
And the big one, data centers.
The scale of the data center build-out mentioned in the report is honestly hard to wrap your head around. The BDO report cited 47,000 megawatts of data center capacity currently under construction globally.
Just to put that in perspective for you,
Right.
one single megawatt can power hundreds of homes. We are building enough power capacity to run small nations purely to support the AI boom.
And that requires physical infrastructure. You can't code a cooling pipe.
You cannot. Someone has to physically bend that metal. Someone has to build the commercial HVAC systems, the server racks, the security cages. That is where the manufacturing stability is hiding. It's not in making toaster ovens. It's in building the physical body of the internet.
Speaking of AI, we have to talk about how it's reshaping the white-collar world. Because while the factories are looking for bodies to bend metal, the office parks seem to be looking for, well, less of them.
There is a really interesting dynamic happening with private equity here. BDO points out that PE firms are actively buying up mid-market manufacturers right now.
But not for the usual reasons, right? Usually the PE playbook is buy, strip, sell, or buy to expand the physical footprint.
Not in 2026. Now the play is buy, automate, scale. They are acquiring these companies to install standardized technology stacks. They want to integrate AI and automation software across the board so they can scale up efficiency without scaling up headcount.
So they are betting on software, not employment growth. And the BLS data totally confirms this trend. We can see exactly who is losing in this equation.
It's brutal for very specific roles. Retail cashiers, for example, are projected to drop by almost 10%.
Because of self-checkout and automated kiosks.
Right. And office administrative roles are shrinking rapidly because AI can now schedule meetings, route complex emails, and handle basic bookkeeping.
It's the middleman tasks. If your job is primarily moving information from one pile to another, you are in the danger zone. But on the flip side, the winners are also very clear.
Data scientists are up 33.5%. Information security analysts are up 28.5%.
But, and this is the nuance I think a lot of people miss, it's not just a simple story of robots take all jobs. AI isn't just replacing jobs, it's splitting them.
That's a great way to put it. Look at graphic designers. Their job growth might slow down, not because they're obsolete, but because AI helps a single designer iterate 10 times faster.
So you need fewer of them to do the same amount of work.
Exactly. Or look at the data for medical transcriptionists. That specific job is down nearly 5%. AI just listens to the doctor in the room and types the notes automatically.
It makes sense. It's a pure transcription task.
Yeah.
But then you look at medical and health services managers in the exact same clinics.
Up 23.2%.
So the person typing the notes is out, but the person managing the workflow of the clinic is incredibly high demand.
Because the entire system is getting so much more complex. You have telehealth integrations, dense insurance coding, AI diagnostics. You need a human brain to navigate the system, even if you are using a computer brain to do the actual typing.
So the takeaway for you, the listener, is don't be the task doer, be the system manager.
Move up the complexity ladder. If a rule-based algorithm can do your job, it will. If your job requires navigating ambiguity and managing different inputs, you're safe.
Which brings us to the final piece of this puzzle. We know what jobs are: safe, healthcare, high-tech manufacturing, system management. But where should you actually be doing them?
Location matters more than ever.
Builder magazine released their Markets to Watch index for 2026, and looking at it, it's a total departure from the pandemic era.
Remember the Zoom towns?
Mm-hmm.
Move to a ski town in Idaho, work from your laptop, buy a house sight unseen.
The ultimate lifestyle arbitrage play.
That era is dead. The new index from Builder magazine is entirely focused on structural stability. People are following the infrastructure money we just talked about.
They want insulation from the economic volatility.
Exactly.
The top 3 cities on their highlight list really tell the story of this great retooling. First up is Charleston, South Carolina.
And it's not just on the list for the food or the coastal lifestyle. It's driven by aerospace and automotive industries. Heavy industry. High-income job growth is strong there because they're physically making things that are expensive and necessary.
Then you have Columbia, South Carolina.
That's what I'd call the stable pick. It's a state capital, it has the University of South Carolina, and it has massive healthcare systems. It's totally insulated.
Because when the private sector cools down, government, education, and healthcare just keep the lights on.
Right. It's a fortress economy.
And the third one, which is the one that really highlights the new economy for me, is Columbus, Ohio.
The tech manufacturing hybrid. This is almost entirely driven by the Intel Ohio One project, semiconductor manufacturing.
We're back to the mission-critical theme.
We are. Even if hiring slows down everywhere else, the United States has decided that making chips domestically is a matter of pure national security. That means Intel isn't packing up and leaving if there's a recession.
It creates a massive economic anchor for the whole region.
And a huge multiplier effect. You drop a semiconductor fab like that in Columbus, and suddenly you need local suppliers, complex logistics, construction crews, truck drivers.
These chip towns are basically the new boom towns. People aren't looking for a mountain view anymore. They're looking for a 30-year guarantee that the local factory isn't going to close its doors.
They're following the concrete.
So if we pull all these threads together to synthesize what 2026 looks like, we have a labor market that is actively shedding the excess. The government revisions we talked about at the top showed us the fluff was already gone in 2025.
Yeah, the market is stabilizing, but it feels frozen for a lot of people.
Because companies are running lean. Security is really only found in these essential roles, whether that's fixing wind turbines, which is actually one of the fastest growing jobs right now, or caring for the elderly, or securing data network.
The slack is being pulled out of the entire system.
And we can't ignore the political headwinds that the Akron legal news mentioned either. They reported on ongoing trade policy uncertainty and immigration crackdowns that are potentially tightening the labor supply even further.
Both left-wing and right-wing sources are noting those pressures. And we aren't taking sides on the politics of it, but economically, those policies only reinforce the drive for agility and automation that BDO talked about.
Because if you can't find workers due to immigration policies, or if you're worried about trade wars cutting off your foreign supply chain, what do you do?
You automate and you reshore. You make yourself completely self-reliant.
It feels like a much harsher environment, honestly, but perhaps a more grounded one. Less speculation, more fabrication.
It's a very unforgiving environment if you're still relying on the old way of doing things. If you are waiting for a job that requires low skills but pays high wages just because a company is flush with venture capital cash, those days are gone.
So here is the provocative thought I'm left with, and something for you to mull over. If the manufacturing industry is moving toward on-demand production, literally making things only when the order comes in, and the labor market is moving toward mission-critical roles only, are we entering an era where the very concept of excess is permanently retired?
That's the big question, isn't it? We might be seeing the end of the buffer.
Whether that's excess inventory sitting in a warehouse just in case, or extra staff on the corporate payroll just in case.
The just-in-case economy is over.
It's a real call to action to audit your own career inventory with that same lens of agility. Are you sitting in a warehouse waiting to be useful? Or are you the essential infrastructure? Because in 2026, the economy only seems to be paying for the latter.
It's a tough question to ask yourself, but it is absolutely the right one right now.
Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll catch you on the next one.